welcome to the Halley Quynh Show. Hi to all the replay viewers. Feel free to share this out. We're going to talk about when to speak up for yourself. This is so juicy. I was just telling Halley this is so in alignment with like what we've been seeing on the web as far as like, I just want to add in like Camila Harris, like, you know, speaking up for herself, you know, so this is just so in alignment. And what comes to my mind immediately is, what are we doing if we're not speaking up for ourselves? And I know that we're all people pleasers. I know that we all want to be polite and don't want to stir up, make any noise.
Especially the feminine.
Yeah, and so the question is, what we just posted, when do you speak up for yourself? So we both have experiences in this, and for me personally, I know this is something that I'm still working on. I'm always being challenged with. I mean, I'm not going to say like, I've been working on myself and really making sure like where it's safe for me to be, who are the people who accept me, and paying attention when I feel like, ooh, they're like kind of like near my boundary and they're poking a little bit. I come across that sometimes, but when that comes, I'm like, ooh, I'm being challenged here. When do I say something? I'm a noisemaker. Tell us about it, Colleen. Please tell us about it. So Halley, and for those of you guys who don't know us, we're both coaches. We're both in the healing realm, and I lost it. Oh, every single week we go live talking about any discussions with healing, self-love, transformation, just growth, like all across the board. So Halley, let's get into this. When do you believe, you can speak from your own experience, or for people out there who are having trouble speaking up for themselves, like when do we speak up for ourselves? When do you believe that is so necessary to speak up for ourselves? And like, what does that look like? Because we don't want to be assholes. We don't want to seem like a bitch, or, you know, and so I love this topic. So what comes up for you?
Well, I think that the way that you know that there's something that needs to be spoken up for is that you don't feel good.
Right?
You know, like
Exactly.
there's something that someone is doing that involves you and, or, you know, in relation to you, and it makes you feel uncomfortable. It makes you feel disrespected. It makes you feel shut down. It makes you feel small, right? Any of these things. And so, you know, sometimes we were talking about this, sometimes people are just having an off day and they're distracted and they're in their own pain and they can't really be present for you, and you might feel a little slighted, but you're kind of like, but you know what? I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt right now. I'm just going to like let that slide.
Yeah.
And then other times, especially for people that you're in like a regular relationship with, friendship, partners, parents, children, whatever it is, you notice patterns where it's like every time this particular topic comes up, they check out. Or every time I share in this way, like I'm not being received, or they're coming at you in a way that feels like they're crossing a boundary. Whatever it is.
Yeah, it could be rudeness.
It could be rudeness.
Like judgment, criticism.
It could be sexualizing you in a way that you don't feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like when you notice the pattern, that's when it's time, and that gives you the opportunity to like look at the pattern actually and have your own process around it of like, what about this doesn't feel good? What about this feels like it's crossing a line? How would I want this to be different? You know, what is my need here? And that's when it's time to speak up for yourself. Like when you have clarity on what the behavior is that is not making you feel good. And you know, sometimes it happens in a way that's totally unplanned, where you're just like, you kind of had it, and you like, it's like the 50th time, and you're just like, you know what?
Right at that point,
you know what?
You like, can't take it anymore.
This doesn't work for me.
There's no room for it anymore. Like, no.
Yeah, I'm done. Like, I'm done. And we all kind of reach that point at some time, you know, where we're just like, this behavior has to die. And like, oftentimes it's helpful when, you know, like sometimes you have to bring it up and you have to be fierce about it and you have to be stern, and that's that. And then maybe later you can go into a process with it, right? Or sometimes you can present it in a way that like really opens to the process, because you're not so emotionally charged, you know, like you actually have had some time to think about it, calm yourself down, bring it up I don't think one is better than the other, honestly. Like, sometimes we need to stand up for ourselves in the moment when we are heated and when we are charged, because that shit needs to die.
Yeah.
You know? And I think for us women, it's really important that we stop allowing ourselves to be disrespected by the masculine, you know, because the men don't even realize that they're doing it. Right. It's so ingrained, it's so enculturated. Beautiful men with beautiful hearts, with like amazing personalities will disrespect the feminine in these subtle ways. And like, that needs to stop. And we have to let them know when that's happening, because they're not aware.
Ooh.
And it goes both ways, right? The women do it to the men too.
Right.
Women do it to the men too.
We're kind of generalizing it, but you know, of course, like, both sides can project, like, exactly, like, human beings are hurt, and a lot of times there's pain projection going on, and it can come off in a very disrespectful way. It's like, am I going to allow this to be around in my life? And what Colleen just said, what patterns are we allowing in our life? Ooh, thank you for sharing that. Oh my gosh, I'm like recollecting moments where I had to say something. So you know, there's a few particular people that, you know, follow me on social media, and I'm just going to use one example. There's a certain person who I actually met in person, and this individual is a male, and at first the energy was very like supportive and high vibes, and then it turned into kind of like too much, where comments sounded sexual and flirty, and it did not make me feel safe.
Yeah. And
at first I was like, oh, okay, like, I'm not gonna give my energy to this, you know, and just continue going my day. But then when you just continue to see it like show up, I had to stop and process, and all those questions that you mentioned and what Colleen said, like, hold on, you know, is this an opportunity to say something, give them a chance to improve and self-correct themselves, right? Because they're totally unaware, obviously, that they're doing this. And at first, I may reply by not replying, and that's my response. I'm not going to acknowledge it. But then if it's like, okay, you know what? This is my space. I get to feel safe in this, and this is honestly annoying. Like, I'm not going to allow this, and they're not respecting me. So I said something, and I processed this. So I said, like, hey, appreciate your support. I forgot how I said it, but then I went into my message. I see you, appreciate the supportive vibes. And I said something about, like, I want to make sure, or like, I want to, like, hold on, what did I say? It was something about his comments, like, I want to make sure, like, I'm here to spread content that's about this and this and this, and not anything other than that. I said something, okay? Anyways, I spoke my piece, and then he responded with, okay, no, yeah, I hear you, blah, 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 blah. Went quiet for a little bit, and then came back and did the same thing.
Oh.
So guess what?
Blocked? You block his ass?
I did. I blocked it. I either hit it or I blocked it, but guess what? I don't see it anymore. I don't see it anymore. So that's an example. And just with that, we can apply that in any kind of like situation. And especially when they're coming into your space, I feel like out in the physical world, we have control of where we choose to be. And sometimes if we're out in public, something might happen that is out of your control. And you get to decide, okay, like, I either remove myself from this situation, or if they're following you, then okay, like, you know, there's a certain point where it's like this.
Yeah.
Right? With what you were sharing, I was thinking about this moment where I did not speak up for myself, and I felt so shameful for it. And I was like, wow, this is how I've been so used to letting things slide, especially from the men. Quick little story. I was out and about with my partner, who wasn't my partner at the time, with some friends. So like girls and guys, like male and females. We were at Burgers and Brew, and it was late night. So there's people out drunk, intoxicated. We're just having a good time, doing our thing. And here comes this group, mostly men, and maybe there was like one woman. They came in like high vibes, you know, obviously they're awesome. They immediately came over to our table. We're like, hey guys, da 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 da. They came over to our table, and you know, of course, we're all giving each other like, oh yeah, they're feeling themselves. A gentleman pulls up right in front of me, gets close to me, and starts talking to me. God, this is so hard to talk about, but I didn't say anything. I let him talk to me, flirt with me, and I tried keeping it myself like poised, but I was paralyzed. And I'm like, this is so reflecting of my past, of like how I have allowed men or individuals to disrespect me in that way, like physically. And anyway, I sat there, and he even like grabbed my hand, and I was kind of like, oh, you know, but I let him do that. And I was waiting for the male that we were with to say something. I was waiting for somebody else to be like, we gotta go. Like, hey, Quynh, you good? Everybody was occupied with somebody though. Like, I feel like it was like entertaining the two guys, and then we were with another girl, and like I can see that she was kind of like allowing as well. And I was just paralyzed. Yeah. And then it wasn't until he said something. He got up and said, okay, ready to go. And we left, got in the car. We were all in the same car. We carpooled, and I was processing, and I reflected, and it came up, and I was like, and I felt this uncomfortableness. I felt this shame. I felt this guilt, and I felt sad. And then I realized, you know, we were driving home. He was dropping me off to my car, and I was like, I should have said something, huh? And he was like, I was watching you, and I was like, she's not gonna do anything. And yeah, I appreciate my partner today, because that was him, and we talked about it the whole night, and I immediately wanted to shove it away. I wanted to move on the next thing, and he's like, no, we're gonna keep talking about it. Come on. And he made sure that I felt safe, but he was like, let's really talk about this. And I had to admit that, like, wow, I just let someone disrespect me in that way. And so knowing like what feeling safe feels like is really important, because anything outside of that, that's like, right? And I feel like there's different levels. There's like you seeing it coming and being like, ooh, I gotta go somewhere else. But when it gets to the point where they're doing it and they're like in your face doing it, oh yeah, so it's like awareness, bring the uncomfortable truth about like how we lack speaking up for ourselves, because it's like in my experience it needs to hurt to like really be loud, and for us to really like, wow, I'm not gonna let that happen ever again.
Yeah, it's tricky though. Like, I mean, you were with a group, so you were protected in that sense. But if you're a woman out in the world and some dude gets all up in your space, like that feels so incredibly threatening and so unsafe. You know, physically. It's not always the appropriate thing to be like, back up, dude, because if they get aggressive, right? Yeah. So it's like, it's scary. It's scary, and
especially in the night scene. I just want to mention, because I used to go to the clubs and stuff, and you know, when I went to the clubs and stuff like that, like I was searching for attention. So I can see how the behavior of allowing men to give us attention in that way, like underlining felt good. Yeah. Because it was attention. And I saw that come up. Like that was like, I was used to that. Anyway, especially in the night scene.
Yeah. And I think that when you start to prioritize like your safety, your self-value over everything else. Yes. Even over like every relationship that you have. Yeah. Right? Then you can practice this like speaking up for yourself in relationships that really count and are really meaningful to you, you know, and are really important to you. Yeah. Like it's relevant in those relationships as much as it is in any other, you know, random encounter. because it's like, if you're, especially with the ones that we're close with, those are the ones that we are like doing life with. And if you're disrespecting yourself by not speaking up when you're uncomfortable in some type of a pattern behavior, then you're not choosing self-value. You know, and it really comes back to like the fear of loss being bigger and stronger than like taking care of yourself and like loving on yourself and making sure that like you're okay, you know, which is why I think like knowing how to be with yourself and be alone with yourself is so important, because once you have that foundation, you don't have to sacrifice yourself in order to keep relationships.
You're not willing to.
Yeah.
You're not really willing to, because you value your love, you know, your own self-respect higher above all, you know. So you carry that on with you. So you can see how it all comes back to us and our own personal growth and growing that value, like really seeing our worth and respecting ourselves. Colleen says we get conditioned by a young age to hide our truth, so we make others comfortable, forgetting about our own uncomfortableness. Yeah, we just look past it. When it's okay to say nicely, "You're making me feel uncomfortable. I would like for you to stop." Yeah, could have called it right then and there. Right then and there. Good for you for learning this. Took me years to get this. Oh yeah, girl, this was like 2-3 years ago. You know? Hello. Colleen says, if they can't handle your truth and how you feel, then it may be then time to move on from that relationship. Perhaps. Again, how much do you value? And feeling safe and like feeling accepted and heard and respected. That word's coming up a lot. Respected.
Yeah.
So yeah, what a juicy conversation. When to speak up for yourself. Yeah, I like how you bring up truth, Colleen. Because when you speak up, that's your truth. You're expressing your truth. You're expressing of what's not making you feel good right now. And also being open to having a discussion. And that could be tricky too, because you may be talking to someone that doesn't have the space to discuss, to reach to like an understanding place or a growth, like it could be a growth opportunity for both of you. And a lot of times we have to, you know, we end up doing that for ourselves, which is us taking responsibility for the pain that showed up in being around unsafe places or people.
Yeah, or people that have tendencies that they inherited from their upbringing that present as unsafe. You know, even if they're generally safe people. Like really safe people can have unsafe behaviors, right? Or like just behaviors that aren't right for you. Yeah. Like, you know, like you might do something to me that I feel totally comfortable with. Yeah. But that same behavior, like with someone else, might be really triggering. Because we all have our different places of trauma, but it's up for us to advocate for what is correct for us.
For sure. Be our own advocates. Advocate. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Ooh. So what did we learn today, you guys? I just hear questions like, if you value you, then you will speak up when you are uncomfortable, or you will do what's necessary to remove yourself from that situation that is crossing that boundary. Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes I just want to say, sometimes it takes a while. You know, like sometimes you're like have been in like back to the pattern thing where, you know, like in the beginning it's like whatever, and then by the like 27th time you're just like, okay, it's time for this to change. And now it's time to speak up, because like I'm very clear now that this does not work for me.
Right. And that's from your own journey, and like, and that's showing up right now.
Yeah.
You're like, wait a minute. Yeah, it's
and that can be tricky, right? If you're telling someone after the 27th time, like, this actually doesn't work for me, but they're so used to doing it.
They're like, what do you mean?
They're like, we've been doing this, right?
Yes. And then
it's like, yeah, but actually it hasn't been feeling good, but I haven't been really letting that be known because I was still coming to terms with it myself. You know? Yeah. So it's just like we have to own our process.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. Oh, so good. So good. All right, everybody, we have a workshop coming up called Deconditioning Self-Judgement.
Yeah.
Man, that is so needed, especially in the process of loving yourself, in the healing process. Learning to be clear in who you are is key. Definitely. So if any of you are watching this and you feel like you can use some support, some new tools, or for some a safe space to decondition self-judgment, click above. We have that going on the 20th, so less than 2 weeks, or in about 2 weeks. So we do this every single month, and we also host meditation sessions every single week as well. That's all tagged up above. Hi, Howard. Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here. Leave your thoughts down below. Colleen, shout out to you. Thank you for conversating with us.
Yeah, thanks for your engagement.
Yeah, and feeling this with us.
Mm-hmm.
Important topics need to be shared, and if you guys have any topics that you would like for us to cover, let us know as well. All right.
Bye.
Bye. Have a good one.